And I guess the way that I usually describe myself is an engineer, because that's basically what most of what I do is engineering. So I spend most of the week with my engineering and design team working on the current car and future cars and the rockets and spacecraft and that kind of thing.
I noticed your start software designs when you were 10 years old,
yeah.
And got success in 12 years old. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but then you were in Southern Africa. So how did you decide to leave your hometown and realize your dream in North America?
So, I mean, I should say that, when I was a kid, I didn't really have any grand designs. I mean, the reason I started programming computers is because I like computer games. And I play lots of computer games, and I learned that if I wrote software and sold it, then I could get more money and buy better computers. So it wasn't really, with some grand vision or anything. When I was growing up, I'd read lots of books, and they were very often set in the United States, and it seemed like a lot of new technology was being developed in the United States. So I thought, okay, I really want to work on new technology, so I want to get to Silicon Valley. Which when I was growing up, Silicon Valley seemed like some sort of mythical place, like Mount Olympus or something.
So when you thought about the Silicon Valley, you were still in South Africa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So once you were still in your teenager time.
Yeah. Yeah. I tried at first to convince my parents to move to the U.S., but neither of them would move. They were divorced, and so eventually I was able to get my Canadian citizenship because my mom had been born in Canada. So I moved first to Canada by myself when I was 17, and then a few years later I moved to the U.S.
So then you decided to go to Stanford, go to Silicon Valley, yeah, after you graduate, right?
Yeah.
As we mentioned, at that time, actually, it's the middle of the 1990s. I didn't feel that the gold rush in time, at least for me, because I was there, yeah. And I heard about that, but I didn't feel that the way. Yeah. So, but how did you decide to start your own company and give up your study in Stanford?
The reason I came out to Stanford was actually to work on energy storage technologies for electric cars. That summer of '95. I was looking at the internet, and it seemed to me like the internet was going to have a big effect on humanity. So I thought, well, I can either work on electric vehicle technology and do my PhD at Stanford and watch the internet get built, or I could put my studies on hold and try to be part of the internet. And at first I tried to get a job at Netscape because that was the only internet company, and they didn't respond to me. So then I was like, okay, if I can't get a job at the only internet company, then I better try starting something. But I talked to my professor and I said, look, I'm going to try starting a company. It's probably not going to succeed. And if it doesn't succeed, can I come back? And he said, sure, no problem. And so I put my studies on hold and started the company.
马斯克创立的软件公司 Zip2 让他掘到了价值不菲的第一桶金。随后，他参与创建和管理的在线支付公司 PayPal 也迅速成功，并被eBay收购。成为第一大股东的马斯克将1.65亿美元收入囊中。那是2002年，马斯克31岁。
So you plan to build electric cars from that time actually. So yes. So after working for internet, for PayPal, you decide to come back to your own dream.
Yes.
Yeah, to do the electric car.
I actually, when doing the two internet companies, I thought that, I thought that the big car companies would create electric cars, and that would be no need for a startup company. But then I was shocked to see like the General Motors EV1 and that General Motors recalled their EV1 and crushed all of the cars. I don't know if it was a movie made about it called Who Killed the Electric Car? And so it was like, wow, this is terrible. So I thought, well, if the big car companies are not going to create electric cars by themselves, then it's necessary to create a startup to do electric cars, to show that it's possible to create a compelling electric car. So we created Tesla.
So before sell the PayPal, you didn't think about making electric car?
No, I did. Well, not exactly. It's more from the standpoint of I think it's important that electric cars are created. So when I was doing my undergraduate in physics, I thought, okay, what are the things that are most likely to affect the future of humanity? One of them being the internet, sustainable energy, both production and consumption, making life multiplanetary. There were a couple of other areas that I thought would affect the future, but I wasn't sure I wanted to be involved in, and those were artificial intelligence and rewriting genetics.
And right now you have three really significant and interesting businesses, Solar City, electric car, and SpaceX.
Right.
Will you devote the rest of your life for three of them, or going to sell some of them when they got success?
I have no plans to sell the companies. Yeah. And,
You say you're going to stay with them?
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Among the three, which one is a priority?
So I characterize Tesla as being like focused on a problem that's critical this century. SpaceX is working, on a problem that I think is more of a millennium type of problem. It's a very much longer term thing. That doesn't. It's not as though one is more or less important than the other. It's just a question of the time scale.
But Tesla is more like emergency with a lot of present problems, right? Challenging. It's more challenging for you, Tesla, right now.
They're both quite challenging. They're challenging in different ways. And I split my time about evenly between Tesla and SpaceX. So it's about 50-50.
50-50. Oh, You're so creative. Do you plan to have some other big ideas, like big companies, or a startup with big ideas?
Well, I mean, I do have some additional ideas that I think would be interesting. I mean, I mentioned this idea for a new mode of transport called the Hyperloop, which you may have read about. And I think it would be interesting to do a vertical takeoff and landing supersonic jet, electric jet. But I think for now, I'm just going to be focused on SpaceX and Tesla, and a little bit on Solar City. And that leaves me pretty strung out. So, I mean, I think, so I have more ideas than I can really execute on. That's why the sort of Hyperloop idea, I just made that sort of open source. So if anybody wants to do it, they can do it. I didn't try to patent it or anything.
2002年，马斯克与他人合作创办了太空技术公司 SpaceX。2004年，他带领 A 轮融资进入成立不久的电动汽车公司特斯拉，成为联合创始人之一。如今10多年过去了 ，SpaceX 已经和美国航空航天局签下10亿美元量级的火箭发射订单，并在研制可回收反复使用的火箭。而特斯拉也进入了爆发性增长阶段。2010年6月，特斯拉汽车在纳斯达克挂牌，这是1956年福特汽车上市以来美国第一次有新汽车公司 IPO。2013年起，随着 Model S 在市场上大受追捧，特斯拉股价疯狂上涨，马斯克成为了不少人眼中近乎神奇的成功创业家。有报道说，风靡全球的电影《钢铁侠》正是以马斯克为原型改编的。
Mr. Musk, how are you?
Congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you very much.
钢铁侠斯塔克和马斯克的名字都以 K 结尾，而马斯克本人却也曾在钢铁侠系列电影的第2部客串出场。
Last night I read the Chinese websites. All the headlines were Iron Man in China. Iron Man in China. Talk about you. All the headlines everywhere.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Actually, until you told me that, I didn't realize. I mean, I knew there was one article, but I didn't realize there were lots of articles. No, seriously?
Even before, seriously.
Wow.
Your career story is fantastic, eventually with a lot of success.
I mean, I should say, the success looks maybe more obvious now, but it certainly did not look like that in the past. 2 years ago, I was personally having some difficulties. You know, the companies were having some challenges, and so I think I was not in a sort of a positive frame of mind. Like I said, the the last maybe 1 to 1.5 years have been good, but even if you go 2 years back, it was very tough times.
I understand. Was there any great failure, like you think you have had?
Well, I certainly have lost many battles. So far, I've not lost a war, but I've certainly lost many battles.
How many battles?
Oh, yeah, more than I can count, probably. I mean, we had many, at Tesla, we came many times close to bankruptcy. In fact, at the end of 2008, we were only a few days from bankruptcy. Literally 2 days, or 3 days maybe.
So what have you learned through that kind of failed battles?
Oh, I think good fortune certainly plays some role in things. I think for Tesla, one of the things that helped us get through the very difficult time was that the core group of people at the company really believed in the mission.
2014年4月22日，马斯克在北京向首批8位中国买家交付了 Model S 纯电动轿跑车，正式宣告了在中国的疯狂冒险。此前，特斯拉在中国水土不服的消息屡见报端，原特斯拉中国区总经理郑顺景离职，进口车身份无法获得补贴，23位来自非京沪地区的特斯拉订单车主因不满交车顺序而集体投诉。之后还有充电配套、售后服务等一系列难题。马斯克打算如何面对这一切？